What's up, y'all? Chris Lotus here. I hope you're doing all right. Now that I got that one big video out of the way, there's another big one coming that I'm looking to get out this month because I do not want it to be put out way too late, but I will cross that bridge when I get there. You see the title, you know what's up, let's talk about it. So as you can see here on the screen, the nominees, and you probably knew about this way ahead, but just in case you don't, we got DNF Duel, we got JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Battlestar R, The King of Fighters 15, Multiverses, and the entry that's causing a lot of buzz, Sifu. And as I'm sure you know, there's been a lot of talk about what in the world is this, why is Sifu in this category, especially when I did a little bit of digging. Sifu does have a nomination for Best Action Game. Now I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but just in case you don't know, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this in previous videos or not. I don't really enjoy award shows like I used to, and that goes for games, music, what say you. And it's just because, unfortunately for me, people ruined it. Like, I know everybody wants their favorites to win, that's totally fine, but this whole dynamic of when people's favorites don't win, oh, these awards mean nothing, it's like, come on, get over yourselves, okay? The awards don't mean anything. The very award that you were cheering so hard for your favorite to get, now all of a sudden because they lost, they're meaningless. Please. With that being said, I'll also say this. A lot of people have cited situations like this one, like very weird nominations, as another thing that's turned them off from award shows, which, yeah, pretty viable. Because if you ask me, as a lifelong fighting game fan, Sifu's not a fighting game. Just no. Now, is that me crapping on Sifu and saying it's a trash game? Absolutely not. I've watched various friends play it, and from what I've seen, it's actually pretty good. I love the gameplay, especially the whole choices matter aspect of it when it comes to killing or sparing the bosses. The soundtrack is loaded with bangers, and of course, Sifu has a really cool look to it. So yeah, I can't diss this game or bury it that much. Aside from the fact I haven't played it myself, like I said, I've only watched other friends of mine play it, but also in regards to one of my recent videos.
The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water.
Our consciousness is merely the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I can't talk too much mess about this game, I really can't. And that was literally one of my favorite quotes from that game, and I wanted to utilize it in some way, shape, or form. Did the iceberg video, and I was thinking, maybe this might actually make some of the transitions pop a little bit more. And it definitely did. This is all to say that, once again, there is no hate towards Sifu coming from me, but it's not a fighting game. It's not. And I feel like the Game Awards tried to bail themselves out of that, because if you go to the webpage there where you can vote and everything, it says, for the best game designed primarily around head-to-head combat. Now, I would take us all to PTSU University, aka Pull That Shit Up University, and break out the Oxford Dictionary definition, but I've seen a lot of people make this mistake when it comes to defending Sifu's place in this category, because they'll bring up the dictionary definition of fighting, but then the problem with that is, by doing so, you leave yourself open to very obvious and easy counterpunches. Because as I look up fighting, the definition that I see is the action of fighting, violence, or conflict. Even when you look at the various definitions of the word fight, as you can see here, this is where you start getting people making the argument, well, in that case, would you consider Call of Duty a fighting game?
No, you stupid idiot, don't you realize you shoot guns in that game? It's a shooting game.
But I mean, Call of Duty does involve violence or conflict, and if we go down here to fight, engage in a war or battle. See, this is the reason why you don't make these types of arguments there. Because in reality, we are not squarely talking about the Oxford Dictionary definition of fighting. We are looking at it from a video game context, because if we're going by the dictionary, again, put it on the screen, if we were going just by the dictionary definition, then pretty much every game that has been nominated, with the exception of any non-violent, non-combat based sports games, could be eligible for the best fighting game category. Oh man, I thought the whole platform fighting games are not fighting games mess was crazy. I never thought we would get to something even crazier than that, but here we are. I feel like what happened here was the council or whoever decides these nominees, in their eyes, the fighting game scene wasn't booming over the past while or so, and I guess whoever was at the forefront of this whole thing was like, we need a 5th nominee for this fighting game category. We can't really think of any other fighting games.
What are you talking about? We got Sifu, put it in there.
It's not really a fighting game like all the others.
Oh, what you talking about? Haven't you seen it play? It's punching and kicks and combos. That's what fighting games are about, right? Combos and such. Martial arts. It is a fighting game. Put it in there.
Okay, whatever you say. Why in the world did I envision and make the head person of the Game Awards a Vince McMahon type character? Or at least sound like Vince. Anyways, if that was a little too over the top or goofy for you, point is, I feel like they just shoehorned a game in there that had some fighting in it, so it's like, oh, I mean, it's a fighting game, right? I mean, martial arts, kicks and combos, you're beating up people and everything. That's fighting, isn't it? But of course, we already went over why that logic is flawed. Also, going back to the webpage, the operative words in the description are primarily around head-to-head combat. Not sure if I mentioned this before, but I do know that you basically have head-to-head confrontations with the bosses. And that is because when you're talking about head-to-head, you're talking about one-on-one. Two parties going at each other. Not a triple threat, not a fatal four-way, not a battle royale. Head-to-head. Sifu is more of an action beat-em-up game rather than a head-to-head fighting game. At this point right here, if we're gonna start putting games like Sifu in best fighting game category, then I'll tell you what, I don't know if this was an eligibility issue or something, but I want to see Rumbleverse in best fighting game next year if it couldn't be nominated this year. That right there is my favorite game of 2022. I know the year isn't over yet, but I'm calling it right now. I will be surprised if another game wins my heart more than Rumbleverse has. It's a battle royale that you can queue up solo for, which is a big plus for me because while I like games like Apex, I just can't with randos. I only play Apex with friends because randos be on that bullshit. Rage quitting when they don't get their way, and rage quitting when you're about to revive them, something, you get it. Also, plenty of you have been following me long enough. The wrestling influences all throughout Rumbleverse. I need say no more. And finally, it has a competitive fighting game flavor to it. Sure, there are combos and so on and so forth, but you have stuff like situational awareness, spacing, safe and unsafe moves that some of which you'll have to lab to see how you can punish them. And that is what is missing from Sifu. It doesn't have the same competitive element that the other nominees have. The only ways I can see Sifu being competitive is just amongst people like speedrunners or people that do no damage runs. That's really it. And that's not to say that those realms of competition are deficient, they're just different from what we see in fighting games, is what I'm saying. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Moving on. Looking at these nominees here, I'm gonna end up voting for KOF 15, and simply put, it's just the game that I enjoyed the most out of all of these. DNF Duel would have been my second choice. It came in with all the momentum in the world because both of the betas were really fun to me, but upon release, it kinda tripped over itself. The regional pricing discrepancy kinda got in the way of people who wanted to get the game, which I don't know if that's really Neopal or Nexon's fault. I know that might just be a matter of just regional things, government things possibly, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I could cite the fact that the game had very obnoxious balance on launch, but honestly, that's kind of a fighting game trope in most instances. My pick, KOF 15, is not innocent of this either. VRT. That's all you need to hear. And arguably the most damning thing that really hurt DNF Duel was the fact that Nexon and Neopal pretty much did leave this game hanging out in the open with not really a lot for people to get invested in long term. The lack of communication and engagement with DNF Duel really put a bad taste in people's mouths and kind of turned them off. And that's incredibly strange when you consider how they were marketing this game en route to its release. They literally released their first beta opposite of the second KOF 15 beta, another game that is nominated in this category. But they just basically let it blow in the wind afterwards. I mean, yeah, a balance patch came out, but a lot of people panned that balance patch as not really doing much of anything. But I really hope DNF Duel continues to have a player base. It doesn't have to be the largest, it doesn't have to be like at the level of any other household fighting game, because I do like a lot of what I got from this game. I love the character designs, the overall design of the game is really, really good. The gameplay can be a little bit wild in some aspects, but I didn't mind it was alright. Some people are gonna like the whole 90s smorgasbord of cheap stuff and broken stuff and everything, and some people are not gonna like it. It's okay, but for me personally, I didn't mind it. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle I know it's R, shut the fuck up. This game, of all the nominees here, the ones that I consider to be fighting games, was the biggest disappointment to me personally, because I've mentioned before how I really enjoyed this when a friend of mine had it on the PlayStation 3, and I didn't have a PS3 at the time. I, for some reason, got an Xbox 360. Big mistake for a fighting game fan like me, who had friends that were showing me all of these interesting anime fighters like Chaos Code and Dengeki Bunko, which were only on PS3. I still regret that. Anyways, yeah, I was so hyped when they had announced that they were gonna re-release this and remaster it, and I even liked the fact they added more characters, like everything was looking pretty good. And then it got better. They announced they were releasing a demo. Awesome. And to make matters better, they put the very first character that I ever played in this game in the demo, and that is Jolene Cujo. Now, I am not a JoJo's fan, still haven't sat down and watched it or anything. I just picked the first character that caught my eye. It was her. Good design, but then also the fighting style was also a plus for me. So everything was looking good, but then when I played the demo, disappointment came because the netcode was garbage. Was garbage. Now I can already hear some of the snobs out there getting on their high horses talking about, hey, well, why are you letting something like netcode stop you from enjoying the game? I can play offline and have a good time. What's stopping you from doing that? I'll tell you why. Playing the CPU to me is fucking boring. I'll play the CPU in like the story mode, the arcade mode, or the arcade story mode, since some games pretty much think that they're the same thing for the sake of the story and unlocking stuff. But once I'm done with all that, arcade mode and all that other stuff goes to the side. Unless the arcade story mode has something akin to like BlazBlue, where you have visual novel choices matter elements where this path leads to this ending and this path leads to this ending, which sometimes will also lead to unlockables, then that's another story. Now, if you're somebody that just has fun playing the CPU, I'm happy for you. No sarcasm attached whatsoever. I want people to enjoy fighting games, whether you like competing like me at tournaments online, whether you love speedrunning, whether you just love punching and pressing a bunch of buttons or whatever. I want as many people within reason to enjoy fighting games. Mine and other players' demands for good rollback netcode and matchmaking, we will get to that, is not going to infringe upon a person who wants to speedrun arcade mode or time attack or just wants to play the CPU or play offline. I do not get why I have to say that. Roughly every time somebody talks about a fighting game not having good matchmaking, somebody's gotta come in talking about, what's stopping you from playing the CPU? Everybody doesn't enjoy playing fighting games competitively and online. The same thing also applies. Everybody doesn't love playing the fucking CPU, okay? There's more than one way to enjoy a fighting game. The only way I would see an issue here is if one of these things got in the way of the other, and it doesn't. Why the fuck is this a thing? And those of you that listen to the Shattering, y'all remember I am one of the biggest advocates for fighting games to start diversifying and making much more better and engaging single player content. I've basically fallen out of love with this franchise, but hey, credit where credit is due. I think Mortal Kombat did a fairly decent job with this, and ironically, in my opinion, I think they did it best during their Dark Age, the 3D era. Sorry, not sorry, but for me, nothing will ever be cooler than chess combat. Fight me. Coincidentally, in terms of single player content, while we're talking about it, of all the nominees in this category here, I think that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R did it better than any other game here. That is the one thing that puts it literally above all the others here. I know a lot of people are not fans of remasters getting nominations, but credit where credit's due. Those extra 100 battles, which included some what-if battles, and then the versus mode has 3v3. Yeah, I think in that department, JoJo's outshines every other nominee here. It's just, unfortunately, everything else for me was just so much of a downer that probably would be my third choice out of these. Multiverses. Let me get this out the way. While I am voting for King of Fighters 15 in this category, Multiverses is the game that I think is gonna win. Yeah, all of you that love to get on your freaking high horse about platform fighters not being fighting games, I said it. I think Multiverses is going to win this category. Of all these games here, literally that one is the one that I've heard the least amount of complaints about. How do I feel about Multiverses? It's a decent game. It's just for me personally, far as getting my vote, it'd be fourth in line just because unfortunately they freaking shoehorned Sifu in there. That's really it. Now this is not me saying that you shouldn't try this game. If you haven't tried it, hey, you won't lose anything from it except time. That's pretty much it. My issue with Multiverses, man, it's not even really an issue. It's more of a, it's not you, it's me type of deal. There wasn't really enough with this game to keep me invested long term. Now, it's already difficult for me to get into platform fighters. Like, honestly, I enjoyed Rushdown Revolt more than Multiverses. There's a lot more that I can get invested in terms of characters, seeing that's really what both of these games have. People will call these games Smash clones, and I get why. I mean, I know Smash was the big breakout granddaddy of platform fighters, but they lack a lot of that engaging, interesting, fun single-player content that Smash has. But yeah, when I'm talking about Multiverses, there were really only a handful of characters that I could get invested in. More approximately 4 characters: Harley Quinn, Velma, Arya Stark, and Tom and Jerry. And of those 4, I really only had fun playing Velma and Tom and Jerry. That's really it. And when your game doesn't really have a lot of single player content, as far as getting my personal vote, it's gonna come down to the enjoyability of the game and the characters. And after like the 300th match, I really didn't have drive to play Multiverses really. It literally reminds me of what stopped me from playing Guilty Gear Strive. I just did not have the drive for it. I want to emphasize that this is my opinion about why I'm voting the way I am, okay? You are more than welcome to vote however you want for whoever you want. And yeah, we have to say that because apparently people still think it's cool to cherry pick and straw man on the internet for the sake of owning people. I swear you motherfuckers make this platform all the less fun. I really don't need to go over KOF 15. If you look around enough, whether it's my community tab or in a video or such, you probably know how I feel about it. I've praised the game extensively and I've critiqued it just as much. And honestly, my biggest critiques about the game, I've pretty much already talked about them in this video. The faulty matchmaking, the lack of unique single player content, the whole Rugal thing was a step in the right direction, but then SNK kinda just dropped it right there and just let it sit. I was hoping we were gonna get Genets at EVO, but it didn't happen. Obviously, there's gonna be more coming to KOF 15 with Season 2 right around the corner, which speaking of, to close out this video, I was also wondering how many fighting game reveals are we gonna get at the Game Awards? Because if you all recall, last year, we got arguably the most expectation-shattering announcement for KOF 15 in the return of K4 Crow 9, which that was pretty good. That was like really smart marketing and good timing on SNK's part. I really hope something for Season 2 is revealed at the Game Awards. I know Capcom revealed a bunch of stuff for Street Fighter 6 over the past couple of months, but it would be a mistake to not have any reveals at or around the Game Awards. They've got to. And yeah, I'm still hoping to see another one of the new characters. Really, I want to see Lily. I am so hyped for this character. I am so hyped for her. And then of course, Tekken 8. They've got to have something there because I know the first Tekken 8 reveal had a lot of people talking. They got to keep that momentum going, but we shall see. But hey, all of that is just my thoughts and my opinions. Let me know what you think about all of this. And until next time, I am Chrysalid, signing off. Y'all take care of yourselves, be safe out there, cool to each other. See ya.